Welcome to the Willful Thinking Podcast, where I, your host, Will Coleman, have real conversations with the people shaping our community. Each episode will bring unfiltered talks with local business owners, mentors, community leaders, and friends who inspire, challenge, and make things happen. This episode of Willful Thinking is brought to you by Sierra Hills Roofing. At Sierra Hills Roofing, we are more than just a roofing company. We are a family dedicated to safeguarding your home with unwavering integrity, unparalleled craftsmanship, and a commitment to honesty. Our mission is to provide top-tier roofing solutions while upholding the core values that define our family: trust, reliability, and the promise of a secure shelter for your loved ones. Sierra Hills Roofing. Call us 916-975-5095 or visit us online, sierrahillsroofing.com. This episode of the Willful Thinking Podcast hosts owner of Foothill Fire Protection, Mr. Dillion Gray. Dillion is an avid golfer, a husband, a father, business owner, entrepreneur, and a community leader. I thank him so much for his time. We talk funny stories in the construction industry. We talk about ownership and entrepreneurship in our small Placer County community. And we just talk about life. Kick back, sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode of the Willful Thinking Podcast with Dillion Gray.
Yeah. The roofing company.
Yeah.
We just made videos. We hired the same guy.
Did you like him?
They did great.
He's a good dude.
We just weren't prepared, I don't feel like,
Yeah.
as we should have been. And so the guys like Billy did good, a couple of my other guys, but they had me on like one.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I should not be on the videos.
It is wild, right?
It was because like just your voice and the way you talk.
Yeah.
Like that's why I watched the video. I'm like, these are great. Well, you made a lot of that great. So like when you said you were doing a podcast, I was like, that's perfect.
Yeah. This is fun, man. This is like a creative outlet for me just to talk to people that I care about, talk to people that are influential in the community, but also just like get some thoughts out there in the world, man. Like, I think, and I want to talk to you about it today, but we just had a big election. We got all sorts of different policies changing here locally. We're both business owners. I don't think it's ever been more difficult to run a business, both in the state of California and just in general with the rising costs of everything else and labor. Our insurance is just out of this world. We're in a different industry than you, but I mean, dude, it's a lot,
Well, I just think we got the election to go the way we needed it to go.
Yeah.
And very interesting to see how the cabinet makes it out here through the rest of the, votes. Because I know, like, I'm curious. I'd love to see RFK get in.
He did today.
Did he get passed?
Today.
Perfect. And so, like, some of those guys, I think, are going to make that. But how much power and influence can you make, as we know in business, in 4 years?
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's a lot of shit that has
And
to
that
change.
is the cap for him. I mean, he's not going to be able to run again. So
Yeah. But yeah, it's been a good run. That's for sure.
yeah. Well, welcome to the Willful Thinking Podcast.
Well, thank you for having me.
It's great to have you here, dude. Did you watch the Super Bowl?
I did.
What'd you think?
I was actually pumped because I can't stand Kansas City.
Yeah, I'm conflicted because I'm with you. Like, I'm kind of sick of all that, Kansas City domination. And Mahomes is so good, though. You got to give him.
Well, he's the player on the team, and I unfortunately, because I like Kelsey and a few other guys, I just don't like him. And I also do feel they get favorable calls.
It's you can't argue it. Yeah.
So that's what frustrates me more. But to see Philly go out there and bring down the W, make them look bad.
Yeah.
They embarrassed them.
Embarrassed, dude. I think that's the worst Kansas City's played in 3 years, too.
When it kind of shows.
Other than when Carson Wentz started and they played Denver the last week of the year. So.
But I think if you look like at Kansas City, like he's trying to put himself as like a Tom Brady and that legendary quarterback, which he really already is, but he didn't win 3 in a row, right? He had a spot to set himself apart from everybody, and they really laid an egg. So
yeah.
I'm pumped. I'm a Niners fan. Let's go Niners. So.
I grew up a Washington fan, so that's where I'm conflicted. As like, you can't root for the Eagles, haven't rooted against them my whole life, but I just had no skin in this game. But I wanted a better game, and then the halftime show, I'm sure that it was good for some people. Wasn't my cup of tea, I didn't really understand what I was supposed to be getting out of it mostly. Yeah. But I mean, it was entertaining to some degree, and I guess like once I read up on the beef between Kendrick Lamar and Drake, it's like, oh, now this makes more sense. But still, it's like I don't know, man. That's just not what I listen to. It's not really my deal. So
no, and that's it. My kids had to tell me what was going on.
And my kids, they were like, "What is this?" Because we don't listen to rap music. So
that's it. Danielle played like a song or two afterwards, and like to be honest, like I had no idea who he was, no idea about the beef. So like I guess, and as we get older, some of that stuff is like the hip thing.
Yeah,
just don't know about it.
Well, dude, we're still at an age where like we don't cuss in front of our kids, and we try to limit like what they do here. So we can't play a lot of rap music for them because then we're having conversations and explanations of things that we're not quite ready for. So,
well, if you do, I have a 15-year-old and a 4-year-old.
Yeah,
the conversations that the 4-year-old have are pretty interesting now because he hears more than he should.
Yeah,
because he's got an older sister, 2 of them that tell him things.
Yeah,
and it's like God, it's constant.
Well, and I mean, our son is now 1st grade, and I mean, there's playground talk even at that age where he comes home and he's like, what does the F word mean? Yeah. And you're like, which one? You know, like what word are you talking about?
There's a couple ways you can use that.
Yeah, you got to be so careful. But we were talking to somebody at church of all places about it, and they were like, look, this is unavoidable as a parent. Like you're going to have these difficult conversations. The thing that they told us that kind of struck a chord was, hey, you have the chance to control the narrative if you address it head on as opposed to avoiding it. So yeah, they might not be ready to understand the full meaning of some of these words, but at least if you're controlling the narrative, then they can kind of get there with how you want them to, as opposed to just what they're hearing some other 8, 9, 10-year-old kids say on the playground.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
No, yeah, that's it. Parenting's tough. Like that's probably the hardest thing I've had to do in life.
Dude, for sure.
It's the things that I've learned with my oldest now, and like I told her, I'm like, unfortunately, I was super young when I had you, so I'm gonna do a whole lot better with your brother.
Yeah,
like you're just kind of the practice one. But
how old were you when you guys had kids?
23.
Yeah, I wasn't too much older than you. Yep. Yeah.
And then we had, of course, I have a 14-year-old, an 11-year-old,
yeah,
and a 4-year-old, so we have a big gap to the bottom there. But
dude, Mackenzie's gonna be driving in no time.
She's already talking about what kind of car she's gonna get. And she's been looking at like BMWs, and I'm like, you need something that starts with a K. Like,
bro,
Kia is right up your alley. Like,
my first car was a 1992 Chrysler LeBaron.
Yeah.
So shout out to Evelyn. That was his Evelyn the LeBaron.
I actually got a pretty cool. I got a Jeep Wrangler right when
nice.
But it was my dad's like 3rd vehicle. So he was like, hey, you can drive the Jeep.
Yeah.
So it was cool. It was great. But, now I guess we have all the safety stuff. So it's like looking at safe cars. And
you have to.
Yeah, it'd be great to find something that she can drive for the next 8 years, right?
Totally.
Get through high school, get through college. And then at that point, you have hopefully the ability to have a job. So
yeah,
I told her we're going to treat you right. But like, it's funny, the car she shows me, it's like,
yeah,
well, I'm not sure where you're living. So.
Dude, when I graduated from high school, I went to college in North Carolina. So like 3.5 hours from home. And we knew that the LeBaron wasn't going to make it. My dang phone, dude. I meant to turn this off. So my folks were like, all right, if the LeBaron's not going to make it, we got to get you something that's safe, something that's reliable. They went with a Volvo station wagon, the grocery getter, yeah. But it did make it all through college. So, and it's a safe car.
It's good for the golf clubs.
No, dude, we fit the clubs right in there. So
that's fun.
We know each other. We've known each other for what, 10 years now?
Probably,
or so?
Yeah. I would say 10. 12.
Played a lot of golf together.
Yep.
Golf's definitely a passion of both of ours. How's the golf game these days?
It's all right. I'd say I'm more coaching in life right now.
Yeah.
Playing a few tournaments during COVID and want to get back into tournament play.
Dude, you had a good run there for a minute. Yeah.
And that's really is trying to get back to that level and playing them as much as I was. So hopefully here with business, can kind of get the structure in a better spot to where I can sneak out and get a couple rounds a weekend is my goal.
Do you like competitive golf?
I love it.
What about it? Like what gets your juices flowing?
Probably the tingly fingers.
Yeah.
Like the nerves. Like
you can't explain it to somebody that's never experienced it, right?
No. And
because it's different than a basketball game or a football game or something like that,
Well, like I played football and like played in a lot of big games, but you have a team around you. And so, yeah, you might get in the spotlight, but, when it's you and a golf ball, it's a 4-foot straight putt. Like
there's nowhere to hide.
Like, you can't. Like it is what it is.
There's nowhere to hide. Dude.
So that was, what's fun is that like really with the kids is, I finished dead last in the tournament I made it to, and not embarrassed at all. Happy to get back there again and play.
Yeah.
But, that's what I explained to my daughter. Like, hey, like I've done worse than whatever you can think. Like standing in front of people. Hitting a 9 on a par 4 where people are just frustrated. You're holding them up still. And so like those are things that I think build that mental strength that I've never been scared of. And so that's where I want to play more competitive golf. I'm not worried about the score. It's more of that adrenaline gets moving.
Yep.
I did get the invite for the tournament we've been playing in every year. So it's April 7th.
Sweet.
So if you can make that, that'd be great.
I'll be sure to be there.
But we got another one. It'd be a fun time.
Okay. Awesome. What's your low now?
So like at my lowest score ever?
Yeah.
So my 68's the lowest score.
All right. So we're under par for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. What was that like that first? Because I remember the first time I broke par, I had 2 putts to do it. And I might have been more nervous on that first putt than I was like opening tee shots of a lot of tournaments because I knew it was on the line. I left it short, dead center, but like a foot. So it was a little kick in. But I mean, now I look back and I'm like, I had it red and it was dead on line. I just left it short. Like I could have shot 2 under instead of 1.
Yeah.
But man, I had to get under. Once you're there, like once you do it once, that's all you want to do.
Well, I was gonna say, I think like the mindset for me now playing, it kind of screwed me up for a while because you go under par, so then you expect like, all right, now I've hit under par, I'm gonna play that way, and it's not right. I'll still go and shoot,
for sure,
mid to high 70s,
yeah.
And then, but that day that it's rolling is rolling, and I would think that when I was playing my best golf is, I was making 5-6 birdies around,
yeah.
And so you can have some bad holes.
Yep.
And so it was pretty easy to shoot 2-3 over when you're making that many birdies.
Yeah.
And that's really where my golf game struggled lately is I putting up 2, maybe 3 around.
And doubles are the killer too.
And
if you can just turn a double into a bogey.
And that's where I'm playing the best golf. And so I don't know really if I had the nerves because you get into the holes when you got 3 left and you're 3 under. It's like, all right, all I got to do is shoot even par.
Yeah.
Moving in. And Cata 16, 17, 16's a dog hole. Like, you can double that super easy.
For sure.
17, 18 for me is pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
So, like, that you play the same course, enough, I think really kills the nerves.
Are you playing more out there or at Winchester these days?
I stopped at Winchester.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, because it's such a shit show.
Yeah. The management company and everything?
Last year, when we were still a member, they had took the kids up there. It was like 6 o'clock in the evening, middle of summer. And they didn't want to give me golf carts and let me play because they had them back by 8. That was it. I was done.
Yeah,
it was
for sure.
Hey, this is not.
You pay all this money to go out there. It's like, dude, but
and Cata, I walk down and get my own golf carts out. I bring them back at dark. So I feel more comfortable there. And the course really fell off. Like it's in pretty good shape right now. I heard, but it had some burn spots. It's that mountain course is hard to keep. And
it's a lot of money to maintain a golf course. Yeah.
So I think with the new membership, they've lost a lot of people. With the new ownership.
It's just part of the deal, unfortunately.
Well, I think Duncan Golf's who bought it, and I think they actually know what they're doing.
They're a good company. I worked with them back when I was in the golf business.
They're probably making money.
Yeah.
It's just not how it was when you were, that small, which they had to make changes.
Yeah. I say I worked with them. They were customers of mine, but I mean, I know they run a good outfit.
Yeah.
And they manage some pretty sweet courses up in the Reno Tahoe area.
Well, that's it. The course is actually back in better shape. They hired like a restaurant host though, so now it wasn't like the same. Then they were doing.
Dude, it seems like they don't do weddings, which is like that's the moneymaker. Food and bev is where these golf courses and facilities make their money.
Well, they sublease the restaurant.
But like they have a gorgeous view up there in that great room. So like, why is there not an event there every weekend? I've just never understood it.
I think that was kind of what I always thought was awkward when it was Winchester under old management. Is they weren't doing weddings.
Yeah.
So it was either the promotional side or what. But you're right. Like to me, there's a lot of dollars to get passed up there. And that's where I think Duncan Golf, they remodeled the clubhouse. They're bringing in things that are going to bring in money.
Yeah.
They're not really the course.
It's the name of the game. These are for-profit companies,
Yes. The course is in decent shape, but
it is a great layout. You got to say that.
I do. Like, it actually, for me, it's the same slope and rating as Cata, but I
would have never guessed that.
I play it I play it way better.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's the greens or
I putt better out there for sure. The greens are always so good.
They are, and I think that, and it's also I think a little shorter. Like you don't have to pull driver out very often.
Yeah, for sure.
So.
What do you think of this TGL thing? Have you watched any of it, the screen golf?
I haven't yet.
Yeah.
No, but I've heard a lot, like talking to a lot of buddies about it, and I think it's a great way to mix up golf now,
Yeah.
right, in a different format. It sounds like it's exciting.
Yeah.
It's fun to see Tiger playing,
No doubt.
And in this area where he can still compete,
Yeah.
it's not an everyday grind. I think that alone drives, that golf spirit. But it'd be kind of interesting to see where it goes.
I think it is a good TV product, because you can turn it on. It's on ESPN. It's on a Tuesday night, so there's nothing else on except like maybe college basketball or a basketball game before watching the Kings. But it fits like it's a great time slot, and then you kind of know what you're getting into. It's 2 hours. It's 15, holes on a simulator.
Yeah.
But you're committing 2 hours, and that's it.
Is that green they built? Is that turf?
Dude, it's sick. Yeah, it is artificial turf, but it's got these this motorized system in it that creates the different slopes and the different breaks. And so every green is designed differently, but it is the same green surface or complex used for all the 15 holes.
Well, that's what I was trying to figure out because, like, I have a turf green at my house.
Me too.
And there's no way it rolls the same
Oh,
as like
for
what
sure.
they're putting on. Because watching these guys putting how they're doing it, so we're very curious on what turf and stuff they use.
Dude, mine is usually a game of like avoid this pile of dog crap here and this stick here.
Mine
and
has some weeds going through it right now. I need to
it is
spray
what it is, man. But you know, better than nothing.
You know, that's it.
I still can't putt for shit, but
Getting the kids on, it's the best. Like,
no doubt.
We use it for all our sports too.
Yeah.
So it's a good area.
Yeah. Cool. So what other sports are the kids playing?
Lacrosse.
No way.
Yeah, so my middle child really likes lacrosse.
Yeah.
So I'm helping coach that because there's like 36 kids and they have like
Whoa.
3 coaches.
Is that travel?
Yeah, but they're gonna split the teams.
Okay.
So it's actually I think it's rec. It's here at Foothills Lacrosse League.
Okay.
And
So where do they go?
like the furthest place we went last year was Livermore.
Oh, okay.
So we didn't get too far. My nephew plays super competitive lacrosse, and he's been to like Palm Springs. He's been to Utah. He's been San Diego, LA.
Dude, that's the thing about travel sports that gives me anxiety because, like, my son loves sports and he's trying all of them now and kind of deciding what he wants to do. But it's like, hey, if he picks one or two and he's decent at it, then the only place you can really progress once they get to a certain age is like you're going to play travel ball of some sort. But man, the commitment there, like it's a lot of time, it's a lot of money, and it's so much travel.
Well, that's where like my sister, she's on the road probably like 6 to 8 weekends during the competitive season, and they're flying. Like you're not driving to this stuff, you're flying to it, and the lacrosse is really an East Coast sport though. And
it was big where I grew up.
And so like the kids out here that are really good, they go to the East Coast. So like I got a buddy and his oldest daughter's super good. She spends a month during the summer on the East Coast playing in tournaments.
Yeah.
So you talk about costs, like they're into it 30, 40 grand a year.
Yeah.
Right. Trying to keep her like playing in all the majors. But like to draw kids, so like I really like that's the problem with college sports anymore for me is that like if you're not playing a club sport, you're not getting looked at. You know? So like high school golf. No one's coming to watch you at high school golf.
No, you got to play other tournaments.
You got to play other tournaments. Same thing with like baseball. You got to go to showcases.
Yep.
Right. And then lacrosse now, you got to have your own videos. You got to go to the big tournaments. And so, you know, it's like, seems like back in the day when I was growing up or when we were young is, you know, you could go high school baseball. You could get scouts out there.
Yeah.
Bit of football.
We had one kid get drafted as a high school senior. So.
Yeah. So like, and you could get that. And like, so nowadays, though, it's like it seems your kids are so oriented into one sport.
You almost have to, though, right? If you're going to be an elite player, how can you focus your energy on anything but that one?
And that's it. And so these kids are now playing it year round. So what happens, though, is like a buddy of mine, he really struggles because all the good kids in their normal rec baseball league are gone.
Yeah.
So now the kids that can't afford to play the travel ball league, they have no competition in the rec league.
For sure.
So he said it's been really a challenge to kind of watch, you know, kids sports is everybody's now traveling and doing all these. They're not playing 3 sports or 4 sports. They're playing 1 sport.
Yep.
You know, or talked to a guy the other day, their kid's homeschooled. And so
where do they play?
She does 2 hours well, she's still out of high school.
Okay.
So she does like 2 hours of school a day. Then she has a golf lesson, a lacrosse lesson, a soccer lesson.
Yeah.
So, I mean, she's playing 3 or 4 sports, but she doesn't have to go to school.
Dude, I gotta tell you this. So back in my high school days, we played high school sports against other teams, other high schools, but then we had one homeschool team that had like all the homeschool kids on the same team for that sport. And they were called the Virginia Beach Friends. Like that was their nickname. So every time we played the Virginia Beach Friends, dude, we just beat up on them in every sport. They were awful, but I'm sure that's different now because, I mean, you got kids that are homeschooled just out of necessity that are probably still really good athletes as opposed to, like, you know, the onus back in our day of the homeschool kids were a little out there, right, for the most part. Now it's way more normal than it ever was.
Well, they we'll get into some vaccines here. So my oldest 2 kids are vaccinated.
Yeah.
And my youngest is not.
Yeah.
And so my wife's an RN, done a lot of studies on different things and done a lot of research. So I would say that, you know, we've made our decision based on data.
Sure.
And not on a feeling.
That's all you can do is educate yourself, right?
And so she spent a lot of time educating us on vaccines and different things. And so unfortunately, if my son is good at sports, you get to high school, you don't have to play high school sports anymore.
Yeah. No, especially to make it to the next level.
Exactly. So you can get through, whereas back in the day, you kind of got to...
You had to play high school.
It seemed like we met a lot of homeschoolers when we got to high school because the kids had to play high school sports to kind of get to that next level, and you just don't see that anymore. So I think that like that coupled with the homeschool programs now that they have, like, I mean, it's really not a bad way to educate your kids if you can find the time to do it.
Yeah.
So we're kind of going through that battle right now because he's 4, and so he's going to preschool, but he can't go to any public school.
Yeah.
So we're going to figure that out here.
Right on. Can we talk about sobriety? Do you mind?
Yeah. Nope, not at all.
All right, cool. So I'm not drinking right now. You and I have talked about that. Like, I think admittedly drinking is something I've struggled with. Just like consuming too much and then losing control and just not feeling like myself, taking a day to recover after I've had a night. So like this is the second time in the last couple of years that I've really decided let's take a break, and it feels better now than even it did the last time. But like it's been so good to wake up every day and feel like my real self and not feel like I'm fighting the night before. I feel more focused. I feel more rested. I feel healthier. Trying to shed some weight, and that's definitely part of it. It's the easiest thing to cut out and do that. But like, you've been sober for a while.
Almost 11 years. So.
Yeah, dude. So, we don't have to get into why that happened, but I do want to talk about like how it is impacting your life today. Do you still think about booze?
Not, it's, I would say that, I have a very strong belief on who I am and what I want to be.
Yeah.
And so I don't have any desires to drink. I have no desires to stay away from booze, though. Like, I don't mind going to the bar with buddies.
Yeah.
I don't mind going and hanging out with friends that are having a good time.
Yeah.
I've learned from me that it's actually people want to hang out with me less that I don't drink than the opposite.
That's interesting.
Want to hang out with them. And
I
think there's some, people out there that are like, hey, like always sober, like, I don't want to be, because they don't want to be judged. Right. And so, like,
I guess. Yeah.
Because I can't tell you about how many drinks everybody's had because you're sober.
Well,
right?
for sure.
So, like, at the end of the day, you not that you keep track, but it's just something you notice, especially when you come from where I've come from in life. And so I think just watching that, but I feel so productive. I think,
dude, no doubt.
My life has changed in 11 years and all in a positive fashion. And it's come to health, focus at work, attitude with my kids.
I'm a way better dad when I'm not drinking,
and
man.
That's it.
And that was honestly like the health thing aside of me wanting to lose some weight. Like number one was I want to be a better husband and a better father. And I can't do both.
Yep.
I can't drink and I can't be the husband and father that I want to be. I just can't.
Well, I was going to say, I think it's unfortunate. Like my wife's the biggest normal person you'll ever meet. Like she can have one glass of wine every 4 weeks and be fine.
I don't have that, bro. If I have one, I'm gonna have 10.
So that was me. And it's like, it was every day though. It wasn't like a day off. And so, I wish I had some of that normalcy in me, but then I don't because, I think some of the strongest people out there are people that have addiction problems.
Yeah.
Because if you can get your addiction under control, I'm an addict at work, right? Like, I love to work. I love to be there. I have the energy level of that, right? Where I'm always one to go.
Yeah.
And so I think that if you really, the focus gets to the right area. I mean, I've met so many successful people in life that are sober.
Dude, I've been shocked to read how many like influential people are so like it's way more than I realized.
Look at your president, right? So in his
never had a drink.
And his family's trained very well, right? To not have that kind of, aid to go to, and so I think it's different, right? My family is on both sides of my family have struggled, with drug and alcohol abuse, and it's different in every family. I think support systems are different as well.
Yeah.
And fortunately, I have a strong support system.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's made it easier, right? And I think that some other people struggle with that, but I think it's an image of who you are is you don't need it, and I can live in my own mind. And that was the hardest thing when I first stopped drinking. I really struggled because my mind was moving nonstop, so I focused on work. Then I was working 12 hours a day, coming home. So then the wife's like, hey, what are you doing? So got some help from some friends that pointed me in the right direction, really calmed my mind down.
Yeah.
And ever since then, I've really felt like I've achieved life. Like I'm focused with my kids. I've got tons of energy.
Yeah.
I don't want to stop off at the bar on the way home.
Yep.
Right. So it's been life-changing. I've really enjoyed it.
And I'm not like in recovery, but I have an understanding of a weakness, and I have never been more motivated to stay away from it.
Yep.
Some of it is business related too. Like I want to put every ounce of energy that I have outside of my family into my business and make that successful. But like I find myself craving it less. Every day that goes by, I want to do it less. And does that get easier? I mean, because I'm already I want to drink less than I've ever wanted to drink, and I think each day that goes by that increases.
I would say it gets way better.
Yeah,
because
you wouldn't even want to be right now, right?
No.
And that's the coolest thing, man.
And that's sort of like it did the first 2 years, just because the situation I went through was pretty easy to drop the bottle, right? It's like, all right, I have this problem, I got to stop. That really was finding that right mindset, and that was really what took 3 years. And unfortunately, it took my wife pushing me.
Yeah,
it took my wife saying, "Hey, you need help.
Yeah,
whatever you got going on up there. You used to medicate with alcohol, and now you're not medicating it." And so it really was just the right support system. And I don't use it as much as I used to, but I know where it's at, and I know where I can get help if I need it, and it really helps out. So.
Right on, man. Well, let's talk about your business. So you own Foothill Fire Protection here in Loomis and Rockland and Chico and Bay Area. You have a Bay Area office still?
Yeah, so we have 6 locations.
Dang.
We're in, 2 states now. So businesses started in 1994, so 31 years this year.
Yeah.
My mom and dad started it as a fire sprinkler company. We grew, kind of ever since then. When I got into it, as soon as I turned 18, opened up Chico when I was 20. Then we bought a company in Redding. Yeah. Opened up the Bay Area. Then went to North Bay, and then just opened an office in Arizona. Yeah. So it's been
dude, that's awesome. Well, and let's be real honest here, because similar to roofing, you probably don't have this passion about fire sprinklers, or maybe your parents did, but there's a necessity for that business. Same with roofing, and that's kind of what drew me to it. And I know a lot about roofing because I worked in roofing for 8 years prior to starting our business. But what really drove, because your dad roofed prior to opening the business. Yeah. So what drove him to fire sprinklers? How did he land on that?
It's kind of a funny story. My mom was a bank teller and managed a bank, actually. And she had my sister, and my dad was roofing. Mm-hmm. It was wintertime, so it rained. So he was out fishing and screwing off. She found out she was pregnant with me and called him and said, "Hey, I quit my job today. Find a real job." And so he used to like roofing because it was peace. So the harder the work, the more you made. Yeah, for sure. And so he really enjoyed. He could kind of set his wages. He liked the wintertime rain because he could fish. But then getting pushed, my Uncle Larry owns LGL's Plumbing. My grandpa and his brothers are pretty phenomenal. All 4 brothers all own businesses. Yeah. So entrepreneurial spirit like crazy. And so my Uncle Larry saw my dad and I think thought, hey, I could really train Bill into doing something. So he invested a lot of time and energy and money, trained my dad on cinema schooling, helped him get started, really showed him how to run a business, and taught him how to do some estimating. Bill and my dad went and learned how to do all of the codes, though. That's what Larry didn't know. So he sent him to school. He learned all the codes of the industry. Early 90s hit, recession time. Uncle was tired of the sprinkler business. There's not a lot to sell. When you're a plumber, you got toilets, you got faucets, you got sinks, you got water heaters. For sure. We sell sprinkler heads. Yeah. So it's like when you look at the products and the markup on materials, it's completely different business than plumbing. Yeah. You're a third of what a plumber gets on a job. Right, so you got to do 3 times as many jobs to do the same revenue. Dang. And so he shut it down. So in that time, my dad got his license. Okay. And then
what is the license number?
We're a C16. We're
16. What is that?
So C16 is for fire protection.
It's for fire protection. Okay.
Yes, and then we have a C10 as well, which is electrical low voltage. Okay. So because of the fire alarm stuff we do, and then there's kitchen hoods fall under the C16 as well. Okay. So it's kind of a whole gamut on the fire side, but it was a very it was a good transition. The early 90s were kind of rough, right? And that was kind of it was slow. My dad thought he could go pick up a bunch of contracts with people he knew, and they were kind of like, hey, you haven't been in business. Okay. We're not going to contract you. So it was a little rougher. And then, got to 2-3 employees. And we worked out of a duplex for 4 years before we moved into our first commercial building. Yeah. And then I think, I really think my sister and I joining the business is what helped push it to that next level. Yeah. Because I have big desires in life, and a lot of them come from money. And, so I'm pushing, what else can I do? How much more can we sell? What more jobs can we do? With my dad's kind of expertise in the industry, my push, my sister's financial side, it's just been a really good combination for the last, 40 years. My mom was really trained my sister on the finances coming out of the bank side. But everybody's self-taught, right? So no college degrees. Everybody graduated high school, but that's about it. So, dude,
one of the things you told me years ago, it's always stuck with me. You were like, I want to own my own plane one day, and I want to be able to fly from one place to another, whether it be office to office or to a golf course or whatever, and like that's what drives me. And dude, I think about that a lot, actually. I'm not gonna lie to you, because like if you have that motivation of like, hey, this is what I'm working for and this is why it makes sense for me, you're going to succeed, because like you got to have your little, some guys put a list on their mirror of like, today I will do this or whatever. But I mean, we're all motivated by something, and it can't just be money, and it's not, it's not.
It's not. And like, for me, it's a different type of freedom, right? Is that I want financial freedom.
Of course. Who doesn't?
That's the goal. And so like what it takes, so is it takes a vision and a grind to get there. And so it's super funny. My wife was listening to some podcasts and is a brain doctor, and he's done like 3,000 brain studies. And he tells her exactly what I tell her every day, right? Is you got to dream what you're looking for, and then you got to put your head down and go get it. Yeah. It's all about positive thinking. Yeah. Life is strictly about getting all the negative shit out of your head and find the positivity. And so she doesn't listen to me with this friggin' doctor as a degree, says the exact same thing. But it's been funny because I'm pushing towards that, right? And so my dream has expanded into my dad's dream, right? Yeah. My dad's a private pilot, but now it's like, hey, can we get to that? And it's like, absolutely we can. My kids like, hey, Dad, how are you going to do that? And it's like, because I know I can. Yeah. So it's all time, right? And that's the only thing I've probably learned in the last couple of years is you can't let time pass you by trying to push too hard for that. Yeah. And I think that's probably been my biggest thing lately is I've been pushing so hard to satisfy that dream that I'm sure I've missed some stuff along the way. So trying to really balance that work-life stuff now too. I have the dream. I can still get there. It doesn't have to happen by 45.
Yeah, dude, that whole Rome wasn't built in a day thing. It is true. Like nothing's overnight, but it's all these baby steps that we take along the way to get us there. Yeah. So what's fascinating to me about your industry is I'm guessing back in the 90s, even early 2000s, like multifamily buildings, apartment complexes, even commercial structures. That's where fire sprinklers make a lot of sense then. But now it's even expanded into residential new builds. Yep. Can you talk about that? Like, what are the codes now, and like, what are the requirements? And I only see this business that you're in continuing to grow primarily because, hey, it is now a requirement in our state.
We're probably one of the youngest construction trades there is, right? Mm-hmm. So you think about plumbing and electrical and roofing and siding and all that, like you're talking hundreds of years.
No doubt.
Not in fire protection.
Yeah.
Right. So like in the late 60s, early 70s is when they started putting them in, more often. And then, as we got into the early 90s, the requirements by the federal government and the state, they just kept shrinking the square footage of the building or the building type. Then they started using fire sprinklers in lieu of. So rather than you building a 6-hour rated wall, you could use fire protection and you didn't have to have that rating. So it started to be more part of the building. And so in the last, basically in 2011 was the year that California adopted every house will have fire sprinklers.
Okay.
Kind of a good time to do it, right? We came out of the 2008 bust. We're at the bottom of the market. We're only building a couple thousand units a year in California.
Okay. That's interesting.
So I feel like they timed it at the right time. There's studies out there, and unfortunately I couldn't tell you exactly what website, but there was a study at one point that no one had died in a house that had fire sprinklers.
Wow.
And so, I unfortunately don't know that exact data that it came from, but at the end of the day, what we're putting in is a life safety system, and they're proven to work.
Do you think some of these like catastrophic losses that we've seen from wildfires over the past couple of, decade or more could have been prevented with better fire hardening?
I think everything on the wildfires, it's outside, right?
Yeah.
So we're just not going to do a lot there. I have a house I got asked to walk on the river the other day because they're worried about it. And it's hard for me is that there's no code written. So in my industry, like everything's code driven, right? We do everything based on a code. It says do this, right? Buildings built like this, you do that. You get into wildland fire and people ask you like, what do you do? Well, I can tell you defensible space is the number one thing. Mm-hmm. Talk to the fire department, have defensible space around your buildings. They make some new events, right? The events will close upon fire.
Yes.
Great to have, right? Put some gutter guards on.
Very expensive, right? Unfortunately, but it does help.
It does. So like, I think there's going to be a lot of these things that come over time, but I mean, you're not stopping a wildfire that's a train. And so if you saw those videos from down at Palisades, right? And all that fire blowing sideways, like, what are you going to stop that with? So I think what we need to work on in our rural areas in California is really defensible space from neighborhoods. Are we getting out far enough? Because that Palisades, if they would have cleaned up a mile of deadfall around the city, they would have had a mile barrier to protect that fire.
Less fuel.
Yeah. Right. And they could have probably had that chance. And so I think there's a lot of things that California can do because it's killing us on insurances. Right.
So I had a guest actually in my last episode that owns an insurance agency here locally. Dude, insurance is only going to get worse before it gets better. Yep. Unfortunately, there's companies pulling out of California that won't write new policies. Companies that do continue to do business have never been more stringent on the requirements to maintain coverage. It's a mess.
Well, they're starting to force, like in our industry, it's not just code driven, right? From the fire departments, insurance companies. You don't have your inspections done, so they're hammering their these tenants because really everybody's looking for a reason to drop somebody right now.
For sure.
And so if they can open that door up at all, they're pushing. And so, like you said, I would agree with your last person because I don't see, like, for us right now, it's not getting better.
No.
And it'll be a few years, before we see that.
What they said that was so interesting to me is like costs have to catch up to the rate of inflation. And right now, California is the 4th cheapest insurance market per like dollar square footage. So if your home is worth, $500 a square foot or $400 a square foot, the cost to insure that per square foot is the 4th lowest in the nation.
Really?
And we have the highest housing prices per capita in the nation.
Yep.
So yeah, we have to kind of tilt that scale back to a little more equal.
Well, and if we've had so much loss. Like, that's the problem.
Yes.
Insurance companies, if they're showing just like us in business, they're not making a profit, why are you doing it?
Exactly.
With the amount of loss they've had. And then, the federal government not stepping in, really, to be honest, at all on some of this stuff. I don't know the exact dollars, but, they were offering the people in, Florida like $700 when they lost their houses.
Yeah. Same with North Carolina and yeah.
So it's just like that's the stuff there. Like, we're sending millions. Like, I'm an Elon Musk fan.
Yeah.
Like, he's effing up the government right now. I love it. We're spending money on stuff we shouldn't be spending. We should be giving money to the people that lost their houses in these fires, which are going to also maintain those insurance rates for the rest of the people across the nation.
Yeah.
Because now the insurance company is not at a net loss. And it's not that I'm for bailing out business. It's catastrophic incidences.
Yes.
That was no one's fault.
Yes.
Right. And that's where that support should come in. And we're not seeing it.
Well, and they're just happening at such a higher frequency, that no one could plan for.
The cost is double to build now, right? So like you go back
at least,
right, 20, 25 years ago, you could insure something because the cost to build it back was nothing. Now the cost to build back Malibu.
Yeah.
Right?
Dude, can you imagine? So like, so I started as a shingle manufacturer rep in 2019. Average retail cost of a square of shingles, which is 3 bundles, was under $100. You're over $150 today for the same product. That's 5 years, 6 years.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money. That's a 50% increase in 6 years.
Yep. Well, that's what the thing, like we're in our biggest commodity, steel pipe and fire protection. And, steel's going back up again right now. And then
Does any of your steel come from like Canada or overseas, or is most of it still made in the U.S.?
No, we have. So they've actually, what's been nice. So there was 2 manufacturers of steel in California, or for what the type of pipe we use in America. They opened up 2 more.
Okay.
So it really helped out on competition, right?
Is True Temper one of those companies?
It's not.
It's not, because they make the golf shafts, obviously, and that's how we would know them. But no, that's a massive steel outfit, so they do not make these types of pipes. Okay.
Yeah, and so like you do get imports, but I think what we're seeing right now with the steel increases is more of the tariffs. You're preparing right for the tariffs to be put on. It's because you can watch and. Steel's a commodity.
Sure.
So you can
Same with wood.
Yeah, you can see the price of coils.
Yep.
So you can understand, like, a couple of years ago, like, steel was trading at $1,600 a coil. Well, our price was through the roof. Now it's trading at $600.
Okay.
Right, but we've gotten 3 increases in the last month.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen the coil price move a lot. So, like, to me, like, why are we getting increases currently? Coil's not going up. So I'm thinking they're getting ready for some of these tariffs to hit that, they've got extra, money stacked up.
What it makes it difficult for us as contractors to be able to hold price for our consumers because, hey, at the end of the day, like, we still have to buy the material when the job is taking place. Yep. So if we bid it at one price and we've seen an increase or 2 since we bid it, you really can't honor the price. You can't be expected to absorb that cost as the contractor.
Agreed. And I think it's just because it all happened so fast, like 2 years ago. So being, per se, that was the first time in our industry I ever had to go through it. And we lost a ton of money. And, most sprinkler contractors you talk to in 21, 22 were rough years. In the beginning of 23, because we all caught these steel increases. Owners didn't want to pay for them. Contractors didn't want to pay for them. A lot of it is you get price gouging is what happens, though, and that's what ends up ruining the industry. You get non-honest people trying to make up extra profits rather than just getting the price covered.
Yeah.
And so we've always operated on like a no change order policy unless you change something in the building. And so going back to contractors we had relationships with, no problem. I got all the change orders for all the increases. The people I didn't have good relationship with didn't get any of it.
Yeah.
And so we've really protected ourselves now by really writing in our contracts that escalation is on the owner, not on us, right? We're a pre-manufactured, so we buy raw product and manufacture, then we fabricate it. So you can't use it on another job.
Sure.
So like it's once it's fabricated, it's yours.
Yep.
And you also can't order it early because you're waiting on approved drawings, you're waiting on the building getting built. So we kind of get stuck in this. I can't just buy a bunch of bulk pipe.
No.
Like, hey, I secured your order. So we really worked hard on it in the last year or two. We've done real well, but now I've gotten 3 increases in the last 2 weeks. So we'll be battling here.
Dude, that's wild.
Yep. So we're up 18% in the last 2 weeks. So we'll be out with the customers, going over, hey, we're taking increases again.
Yeah.
How do we protect ourselves? And a lot of our industry is starting to go to plastic pipe.
Okay.
So unless you're doing real big warehouses, then you're plastic's kind of a commodity that doesn't move. I mean,
Yeah.
The only reason for plastic to move is basically wages, excuse me, and cost of transportation. But it's all made in America, and so we don't have it overseas, any of that. So you'll see in a lot more plastic pipe in our industry because multifamily and single family are huge.
Mm-hmm.
The warehousing was booming. Warehousing's kind of pooped out a little bit for us, and I think for most of the contractors, which isn't a bad thing, but that's where you really see a big haircut is the steel pipe on those.
How long, how far out will you take a proposal knowing that there's approval processes that take place, especially for building owners or property managers or whatever, but they need your number to budget whatever type of either new build or renovation they're making. So how long can you price protect for someone? What's the timeline from bid proposal to actual acceptance that you're willing to hold it at a certain number?
Well, it really just depends on the type. So like a multifamily job that has light steel, right? So if 10% of your product is steel pipe and steel pipe went up 17%, you're only taking a 17% increase on 10% of the total job. So at the end of the day, you can ride out some of those increases, right? It's really on the bigger warehouses and the commercial stuff.
Yeah.
But, we're being very careful. And so when you're getting contractors signing them, we're looking at a huge Walmart distribution center right now where we're replacing 8 systems. Very upfront with the customer, right? Like, hey, here's your number today. If you want to lock this thing in, you got 30 days.
Yeah.
And we're not gonna price hold for you.
Yeah.
On the steel product. I'll give you a number today. I'll tell you how much footage of pipe. I'll give you whatever you want because I want it to be honest.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's the problem in most of our industry is people just, hey, it went up 12 and they try to get 18.
Yeah.
I just want my 12.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that's where we got to work with some of these guys. And that's this big project we're looking at right now. And it sounds like the contractor is somebody you can work with. Hey, this is where we're at. This is what it looks like. We're getting good feedback because we still haven't designed it. So we're pricing something out that might start in 6 months. Well, in 6 months, steel might be down.
Yeah.
So you kind of run that gamut. Like, how do you guys want to do this? We listen to the market and kind of advise our customers. Sounds like in the summertime, we're going to see steel come down. A lot of times they're like, okay, we're not going to start till summer. Let's figure it out then. But again, on a job like that, it's a huge increase. Whereas on an apartment complex, not really going to make that big of a difference.
Okay. Is advertising a big thing for you guys?
It really is on our service business. So
Okay.
We residential, single family, and service. So I've always found with construction, the best thing to do is get out and meet people.
Yeah.
Meet contractors, meet subcontractors.
Yeah.
Subcontractors are your line to everything. My buddy Chris owns a drywall business. He's hooked me up with more jobs than I can count.
Yeah.
Really been a very good advocate for my business and helping us grow it. And then found that same thing on the commercial side. And that for me is like where to go. Go meet some subcontractors, get a good group of buddies, right, that you can bounce jobs back and forth off of. You can refer each other to. That really is what you need in the commercial industry.
Yeah.
Single family, I think you can market it. Right, because you get a lot of owner builders, you get a lot of small time contractors,
and it's a requirement. They know they have to have it, and nobody's opening their Rolodex of business cards and being like, "Oh, good, I got a fire protection guy." It's it is kind of a niche industry, right?
Well, it is, and so and we're also probably the cheapest guy in the job.
Okay.
So at the end of the day, we're hard to deal with because we have to draw a set of drawings. No one draws them. We have to draw them ourselves.
Okay.
We got to get them submitted. We got to get approved, and we got to install. And we're probably the second to third cheapest sub on the entire job.
Yeah.
So I always tell people, at the end of the day, when you're building a house and you're spending $8,000 on your fire sprinkler system, you probably spend $8,000 on your front door.
Yeah.
So what they need from me is they a lot of people don't care about the price.
Yeah.
It's I need my plans done.
Yeah.
I need you on time, and I need you out of here on time.
Yeah.
I don't want any problems. So that's a lot of how I feel like we've been successful is we just try not to be a problem on the house, and we're in, we're out because. At the end of the day, for the customer, they're not going to save any money by going to another guy and getting 7% less on a $8,000 house. Like, how much are you really saving?
Yeah, for sure.
So we don't get, I feel like once you build rapport, they stick with you because you're not in a big enough dollar figure to shop out. Whereas you take lumber, I'm going to shop you, man. It's $150,000 for my lumber package. I'm going to get 2 or 3 numbers. So that's what's kind of unique about our industry in single family.
What phase of the build do you come in at? So like obviously you pour the foundation, then the frame goes up. Roof happens pretty quick after that. So that, I mean, and that's what I know. How soon after all the roofing is done are you in there putting sprinklers in?
It's so typically we're the last MEP to be in.
You are, okay.
Yeah.
So it's really late in the process.
Yeah, because we want to be in after the can lights are in. We want to be in after the HVAC is in, especially on a custom, because we want to line up with the lights, want it to look good. Mechanical, we have to stay away from registers. So if we get in too early, the mechanical guy doesn't know how far his register has to be off my sprinkler head. We end up going back. Track housing, we're in second. Plumber goes, we go.
Okay.
Tracks are very easy, though. We put the same stuff in the same spots.
Yeah.
So once we know where the electrician and the mechanical guy are going, we can really get in early. But there's a huge compatibility issue with CPVC and like Romex wire. And so they've proven on the CPVC, so it's chlorinated polyvinyl chloride is what we use for fire protection in houses, the plastic. It's super spraying insulations caused a major problem, right? Saw all kinds of issues with it. Romex rubbing across the top of the pipe back and forth would cause like heat burns and actually burn through the plastic.
Wow.
Yeah, so there's a lot that kind of goes in. So going in last for us helps us. We don't have people touching our pipe.
Yeah.
We don't have wire draped across it. We're able to give the homeowner the best product at the end of the day because we know what's best, right? Especially on the fire sprinkler side. I think the biggest thing we ran into is people spraying spray foam on shit. They don't know what it does to it. And then you end up having major issues because it heats up the fitting. Fitting separates from the pipe. Now you get a wall leak. And
That's
you can't
super
see
interesting.
it because of the insulation.
Yeah, for sure.
So it ends up causing a mess.
So if I'm building a 3,000 square foot house, what is your time frame of like, how quick are you in and out?
3 days probably.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say the guys from start to finish on something like that on a semi-custom. I'd say we're 2 to anywhere. I mean, we do big houses. I've done a 26,000 square foot house.
Dang.
It was huge. And then we've done guard checks.
Yeah.
So we've done kind of everything. But normally it's like number of sprinkler heads for me. Like how many heads just like in roofing, how many squares can you put on it?
Yeah, totally.
Same kind of a thing with sprinklers is, we have a rough idea. You get into super slope ceilings with beams and that kind of stuff. The guys are only getting 4, 5, 6 heads a day.
Yeah.
Flat 10-foot ceilings, we're getting 12 to 16. So you can move through a 3,000 square foot house in about 2 days.
So you've got your new construction side of it, and then you have your inspection side of it. Are you conducting the inspections like with the fire department, or is it totally separate?
No, it's completely separate. So it's required by the state.
Okay.
Right? The NFPA 25, NFPA 72, Chapter 14, and then Title 19 are all the state requirements for inspections. And there's one for extinguishers and e-lights, but the state requires that they have certain intervals. They're all inspected. And so we go out and basically contract with property managers, end users, building owners, facility maintenance people to do inspections. And so our goal is to keep you on track and to keep you compliant with all the state requirements.
Yeah.
So that way, if there is something that pops up, like you don't have to take that responsibility as the end user. It's, hey, I use Foothill for everything. Let's get them on the phone. And I should be able to defend you. Like, that's my job. We should know why we did the inspection, what you needed to correct, why you corrected it. So we want to be the customer's kind of go-to, so when the fire department shows up, their insurance company shows up, they don't have to know it.
Yeah.
They just call us. We already dealt with it all. We got you covered.
How many total employees do you guys have?
Kind of fluctuates a little bit.
Yeah, sure. With all the offices and everything.
It has.
Yeah.
So like our biggest we've been at was like 264.
Okay.
I would say we're probably running about 212 right now.
Okay.
A little lighter side. Dealt with a little weather here. Residential slows down a bit. You kind of see some of those fluctuations in workflow.
Where do you find talent? Like how are guys coming to you?
I think the trick is not losing talent. So like right now we've been, we've really worked hard. We had a really poor retention rate. And so 2 years ago, running our numbers on like how many people we were turning over, we were turning over, 50 out of 200 easily.
Wow.
And so it's just getting to that point where like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
A lot of it's hiring though.
Yeah.
Right? So that turnover comes, I think, from a lot of different things. Partly is somebody not understanding their job.
Yeah.
Somebody not being, trained. people don't leave people because of the management. That's why you leave, right? You don't like your manager, or somebody didn't tell you where you're going tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know how frustrating it is being in construction, not knowing where you're going to go the rest of the week, right? So having good schedulers or good guys that really pay attention, that helps with the turnover. But we actually use LinkedIn probably the most.
Do you?
Yeah, and Indeed. And that's really where we grind. Like Indeed has a way you can search resumes. And so what's really unique is we search resumes, and anybody that's updated their resume, we can see.
Okay.
So it helps us, like, hey, find your own employees on there sometimes, which is amazing. But,
that's wild.
Anybody that's updating a resume is typically looking for a job, right? And so that's what we're looking for is when somebody updates their resume, it's like, hey, sweet, they updated a resume. Let's give them a phone call.
Yeah.
Let's shoot them an email. Are you looking to work? Are you looking to leave? But we also have really good partners, so like in business, like, you have those people you want to compete against, and then I have ones I don't.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of us out there that are, on a relationship level to where it's a very, very nice to know they're not out trying to steal my people.
Yeah.
My guys go interview there. That's a guy to guy thing, no big deal. But they're not actively hunting my staff.
Yeah.
And that's really what we've tried hard to be is that same thing is we're actively hunting people that are looking for new work. We're actively hunting people that are, updating the resumes. We're not actively hunting people through LinkedIn by recruiting to say, hey, you're in the fire protection industry. Why don't you come work for us? Because unfortunately, like you really hinder somebody's business, on the stealing of manpower side. So try to play that game as best we can and as fair as we can with competition. Because at the end of the day, we want to grow.
Yeah.
We want good people. But we try to where we can. We want to keep our nose clean. We don't want to be out stealing the wrong people from the wrong companies.
No doubt. We had this crazy thing happen last week on Indeed. Somebody created a fake profile with our name, sent out a fake job. They created a fake job posting. We probably got over 100 phone calls from people that had applied for this fake position. And what the scammer was trying to do is get them to a point where they could offer them the job, send them new hire paperwork that included W-2, so your social's on there, your address is on there, your birthday's on there, and then direct deposit forms so that they put their bank account information, and then they totally go dark. So we had dozens and dozens and dozens of people calling us like 3 straight days saying, hey, is this a legitimate opportunity? To the point where we had to call Indeed and get them to flag it and actually like shut it down. Then we had to report they created a fake website using our business name, SierraHillsRoofingInc.com. So Google flagged that for fraud. We had to even file a police report with local Placer County sheriffs.
Oh my God.
Dude, so like when I hear Indeed, I'm like, yeah, it's a great resource, but like the scammers, man, that is becoming a real thing. And actually the sheriff's deputy that I talked to said it's more and more common because they're getting the exact information that an employer would seek in order to steal people's identity. And it's easier than I would have guessed to get that information by doing something like that.
That's pretty wild.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
So hopefully that's behind us, but I don't think our company's ever been Googled as much as we were in the last week because you got actual job seekers going on there being
Hopefully
like, who is this Sierra Hills Roofing Company? Yeah. But no, dude, what a mess. So beware of that, to the listeners out there. It's like, obviously that's a great resource to utilize, but if you are using Indeed, you communicate directly with the job seeker through their secure platform. And what these guys were trying to do is get them off of Indeed and communicate externally on a private email.
Yeah. And I think that's a great point to, people out looking for jobs is, get in person too.
Yeah, for sure.
Don't take over the phone interviews and especially passing your information along.
For sure.
Get in person with people. So.
And our pictures on our, like Lauren and my picture is right there on our website. So even if they got as sophisticated as doing a Zoom, they would know very quickly, like, hey, this is not the owner that they're saying they are because it doesn't match the picture on the website. So, but it's just wild what people are doing, man. Yeah. Are you still pretty involved in the interview process, or do you have?
No, I haven't interviewed anybody in a long time.
Yeah.
So
that's tough for me. It's like, because we know what we're looking for as laborers, as installers, as like craftsmen, but there is a human element to it. As like as good as you might be at pounding a nail or putting on a sprinkler head, we want a good person too.
Yeah. But we had so we of course have an HR department now, and we didn't really have that when I was younger. You kind of did everything on your own, and so she's done a great job. She worked a lot with the managers to try to talk to them about hiring practices. If you're late to an interview, like, I'm not hiring you.
For sure.
Right? If
it's your first impression and you're going to show up late.
We're in construction. Like, I have no problem with you wearing work boots and work jeans, right? And your shirt tucked in. I don't care at all. We're in construction.
Yeah.
But I expect you to show up somewhat presentable, be on time. Because those are the things you can't train. Right, I can't train you how to be on time. I can train you how to work hard, some of that. I can train you how to do our industry and teach you our craft. And that's, I think, unfortunately, our industry has an apprenticeship program now, and it's pretty phenomenal. So you enroll in our apprenticeship program after a year, and after 5 years, you're making $45 an hour, right? So you're graduating out of the program at $90,000 a year, and there's no stop to that.
Yeah.
So that program's going to keep increasing. Our state has regulations now in our industry that require that these guys go through this program, right? So it's non-union based. It's treated a little similar to some union stuff, but as they push through this, they're making really good money. I mean, could you imagine being 22, 23, 24, making 90 grand a year?
No.
Right? Like it's pretty phenomenal. And so we've really been pushing kids like this is a really good industry and you can make really good money.
Yeah. And it's going to be around forever.
I think, my another vision of mine is construction's going to be the number one paying industry in the world.
Yeah.
Right. So like as all these kids want to graduate high school and they don't want to work with their hands, they want to be computer engineers and they want to do this, we're going to have a dime a dozen. Right, we're gonna have everybody out there that has an art degree, has a master's in computer science.
Yeah,
and I gonna need
they can write code all day long, but they can't put a picture on a wall.
Well, and that's it. And so I really feel that the guys that want to work with their hands, that industry is going to be the industry, and you're seeing it already. I mean, that's like I was saying, guys making 90 grand a year after 5 years. Like you can't these guys are going to college, graduating and making $50,000
Yeah,
my guys are going to a trade school that I pay for. All they got to do is commit to 4 hours a week. Right, and they're graduating in 5 years, and they're making really good money. So, and that's not counting the P-Dub jobs they get put on and some other projects. So, like, it's a really good. So, for us as business owners, it's also great. Right?
Yeah.
If people make more, you're going to charge more. If you charge more, right, I can do less work with the same amount of revenue as I did before.
Yeah.
Right. So you kind of look at it as like I think it's a really good thing, and I really appreciate people that are willing to work with their hands. And so, for me, it's only time before people are looking and going, man, I don't know why I'm not in construction working with my hands, making an honest day's labor, and I think that's the big push you're going to see because it is. We're not seeing that industry grow with youth.
Has private equity infiltrated your industry?
Oh yeah,
it's wild, right? So and it's starting to do the same in roofing, specifically in markets outside of California. But I mean, I think it started with HVAC companies, if I'm not mistaken. Like that was the first big push for these companies. What they do is they come in and they purchase an existing company, and then they kind of manage everything internally. So they write their own insurance policies. They have their own labor. It's a machine. It is a machine for business. But now it's infiltrating the trades. Yeah. So how does it work in your industry?
So there's a lot of private equities in our industry. A lot of the big companies that I grew up with around town are private equity now. Family-owned business is disappearing a little bit.
What's the upside, do you think?
There's on the upside on the private equity. I don't know. There's some big strategics, right? So I like the long-term hold guys, right? So a lot of private equities that, you talk to or you hear about, we get emails all the time like, hey, you want to sell, you want to sell, you want to sell.
Yeah.
Their whole process as a private equity is a 3-year, 5-year turn. I'm not into that. It's all money game.
Yeah.
That's all it is. And so to me, you don't really care about the people. You don't have that. You get long-term strategics who they're looking to flip, but they're looking at a 10, 15-year plan. They want to take care of your people. They want to be in the industry because it's life safety or it's roofing, whatever it is. They have a reason to be there. I think they're going to do well because the buying power. So you look at where we're going and so Ferguson Fire and Fabrication. So Ferguson, everybody knows Ferguson, but Ferguson has its wing of fire protection. Their old president of that division grew up around Sacramento. Mm-hmm. So my dad knows him real well. So I've got to talk to him over the years about, what he thinks. And he thinks there's going to be 10 sprinkler companies that run the nation in the next 5 to 10 years. And that's how is a small business when they're paying 35% less for product and
insurance and everything?
Are you going to compete? So Unfortunately, I think private equity is going to be one of those things that it's around. I think the long strategics are really what's going to hold the market together. And to me, what's happening is the private equities are trying to get big enough to sell to the strategics. And as you see that market kind of go, I really feel like the strategics are good companies. They really do care about people. I think there's great opportunity. I mean, if you look at retirement plans. We have retirement plans.
Yeah.
Our retirement plans can't touch some of these others. Johnson Controls, publicly traded company, been around a really long time, terrible at fire protection, had a lot of great ideas back in the day. I can't hire any of their people because they got 12 weeks of paid leave. They've got 6 weeks of this. It's like, so it's good for a lot of those guys. Now, they don't like being there because it's disorganized and everything else, but you can't compete with the benefit package as on a family-owned side. So I think for the employee, that's the benefit, right? There's going to be other opportunities for them. Medical maybe gets better. I mean, our medical's a shit show.
Yeah.
We actually joined a different program.
Were you on like California Choice, or is that what you were doing for a while?
No.
Or Covered California, whatever it is? Because that's what we use for our insurance. And I mean, we don't have nearly the staff that you do, but like our insurance options were pretty limited to what we could offer, and then what we can offer is not ideal for people. I mean, you're still spending a lot of money for very basic healthcare.
I was gonna say, so it's super expensive, and where we ran into problems is like we had offices in the North State. Well, there's no Kaiser.
Yeah.
So you got guys down here that want Kaiser, you got guys up there that don't have Kaiser, so then you're running like two programs.
Yeah.
And so over the last couple of years there's a lot going around right now, though, about medical captives, right? And so we're in a workers' comp captive program. Love it. We've gotten better at safety.
Yeah.
Our mod rate's gotten better.
We
care more about safety. And it's not so much about the dollar. It's more that we want to control the cost, right, that's happening, right? Because that's what was happening. Is our insurance kept going up and up and up in the workers' comp program, and we had no injuries, no accidents. Why is our workers' comp
doesn't make sense.
Zero
You should be rewarded for the safety.
And we should be going down,
Yes.
right? And so that's what we liked about the captive is they look at a longer tail. So they're looking at a 5-year instead of a 3-year run, right? But they're coaching you. You have to be invited into the program. You have to stay current in the program. So they're constantly on you like, hey, what'd you do here? How was your score? And when you're in business, you're competitive, right? Like, there's not a business owner I haven't met that doesn't want to win.
Sure.
So we're now in a group that we're trying to win at with a bunch of other good contractors. So it's pushing our safety up and up and up. And we hired a risk manager, right? So now we got a guy that's his job is safety. So it's really been good. But on the medical side, my Dillion Gray's true belief is captives are going to rule the world in medical because we're getting effed on medical. And so as these captives get together and we start getting group rates and group discounts, right, and we're able to go to the hospital and say, no, we have 1,000 employees. We are not paying your prices.
Yeah.
We're going to pay X for your facilities. It's going to happen. And that's what's going to write. It's either going to be RFK that right sides it, or it's going to be these captives because they're going to get big enough. They're going to have enough power. They're going to start throwing their weight around. And that, to me, is where we have control to help the employee. That should be the goal. Medical is not built for the employee. It's built for them to pay and take their family to keep getting sicker. Whereas it should be built to save them money. How can we best treat you? How do we treat you the best? And so we've signed up in a new program, and I've enjoyed it. It's actually cost us more money as a company than we expected. But we have better control over what happens, and we have more influence on making a difference. And so we're going to run it again another year. And I think what my goal is even if it costs me more, but the employees get a better result, that's what we're looking for.
Dude, my mom asked me something really interesting. So my mom's a very, very progressive, liberal person. We don't share a lot of ideology on the political spectrum, but she was in healthcare for her whole career. Your wife as well. So what she posed to me, because this seems to be a fundamental, kind of arguing point for left versus right, is do you believe healthcare is a basic human right or a luxury? I truly don't know how to answer that, because should it be something accessible for everyone? I would hope so. Like, I hope we live in a society where if you need medical attention or care, you can get it from somewhere.
Yep.
But are we just too far gone for that to be a reality?
Yeah, I know it's a wildest question, because my personal belief is everybody should have medical. I don't agree with socialized medicine, but I do agree with Medicare and Medi-Cal. And when you don't have a job, that's where you get medical, right? I disagree with Cobra. Cobra is the biggest rip-off program out there.
So it costs a fortune.
No one can afford it
No.
when they leave a job. So it's like, why have the program?
Yes.
It doesn't even make sense. So, there's got to be some redirects on how we deal with medical. We don't want to be Canada. So we first went through this. My dad was in Canada, and he asked one of the guys, like, hey, how do you like your medical? And the guy's like, our medical's terrible. Like,
you can't be treated,
it's
right?
It's a firing squad. Like,
yeah.
If you're 65 and you're having a heart problem, we might
get in line. It'll take you 6 months to get seen or treated.
And they might not treat you because they're paying for it. So to me, there needs to be choices. So my family, of course, we're more holistical. So we pay for a lot of doctors out of pocket, right? Fortunately, we're in a spot to do that. We get a lot of advice in medical from private practices rather than going to the national standard. I mean, I think people need to be educated. Like, my biggest thing right now is educate yourself on what's happening. If you're taking antibiotics, there's a podcast out there. I probably could look at you and send it to you. You can add it to the notes. But the guy talked about how when you go in, he was a insurance broker, and what he did was he worked for a life insurance company, and at the life insurance company, he sat behind the scenes, and he basically told you how long you were going to live for. So when they were looking at it, and he said, did any life insurance companies go bankrupt in 05, 06, 07, 8, 9? None of them.
No.
He said, because we're perfect. We can predict when you're going to die. And he said, but I could read medical records, and I could tell you when I opened the file on the first treatment, what the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh treatment was going to be.
Wow.
Because it's the same pattern.
It's a cycle.
And he said in the first treatment never even was diagnosed correctly. So like, educate yourself. Like, you go out and you say, I've got juvenile arthritis. He said that was a big one. What do? They instantly give you a steroid. What does a steroid do? It degenerates your joints. Now you need a hip replacement. Mm-hmm. Then you need that. Fortunately, I'm married the best woman in the world, and so she's got the medical side kicked. But like, I'm reading and listening to this stuff now, going, there's problems. Maybe I should get a second opinion. Maybe I should talk to somebody else. Maybe I should watch my diet. Gut health. Yeah. Gut health goes straight to the brain.
And you mentioned antibiotics. Like, antibiotics kill your gut health, man.
And so gut health, there's another study out there, and doctors talking about it like crazy about your gut and what it reacts to your brain, and how important that is to keep your gut healthy. And so, to me, that's where the education needs to start. It's our foods. That's why I'm such a big RFK fan.
Me too, man.
We went to Italy. My wife and I and my kids. So we went to Italy and Switzerland 2 years ago. She's got a gluten allergy here in America, or celiac, whatever you want to call it. Can't eat bread, can't eat this. We go to Italy, day one, tearing through pizza. Like, screw it. Like, we're here, let's do it. None of us had any problems.
Yeah, dude, there's just so much junk in our food.
There's no GMOs over there. So you start doing the research and reading. It's like, wait, what do you mean you don't have that? So I bought a shit ton of noodles from there, brought them all home. We eat those. We have no problems. So we're really pushing as a family right now. Sugar's another big one. She's been on my ass about with the kids. It rots the brain, how it does it. And so I think that's just, we've just gotten lazy as a country, is we want everything now. We can't wait. We don't want to get up and do anything. And it talked in that one podcast about being comfortable. Yeah. Comfortable is going to kill you. Yeah. Right? So they're the blue zones. You ever heard of the blue zones? Sure. So there's another podcast about the blue zones. This doctor talked about it as well. And one of the things that was crazy about the blue zones is the one in Sicily's all uphill. So a 106-year-old or 117-year-old, whatever it was, guy still living, walking uphill every day, still cooking dinner or whatever. Could you imagine being his kid taking care of him? Yeah. The kid's 90. Yeah. How are you 90 taking care of? Yeah. Right? Like, that's what you start thinking about. Like, man, and it doesn't make sense. And nothing makes sense where they're like, oh, it's carnivore diet, it's this diet. Because in the blue zones, some of them eat more meats, some of them eat more pastas. Yeah. It's whole foods. Yes. And so I think that the more we can educate ourselves on whole foods, we as America, if we could do a better deal, let's make them cheaper. Like, it's a cost problem. And so Foothill, one of our main goals is active wellness, right? One of our goals last year was to buy produce in a bulk fashion that we could help. So we haven't made it there. But our goals are really, how can we help get whole foods affordable? Yeah. And you can do that in mass bulk, right? Yeah. So if we can figure out a way to mass buy for our staff and our families to where they can afford now the whole foods, I think it can make a big difference, And so we tried to cut certain things out of the shop, like, hey, don't bring donuts, don't bring this. Like, try to really have that healthy mindset all the time, because as an employer, if people are healthy, life's easy. No doubt, show up for work every day, they're in the right attitude, they're positive, right? And so a lot of times I find the ones that are stressed or having problems, it's bad diet. A lot of it can be linked to that. Yeah. Dude, you look at the food that we grew up eating, and if you read a label of like just a basic snack food, like a goldfish or something, you can't pronounce half the things on the ingredient list, and then you do see that little stamp that says made with
genetically modified ingredients.
Yep.
It's in everything.
So that's it. There's a couple guys that work for me are like super conspiracy theory. So I get all kinds of like, so where we're missing in America is you got the right side and you got the left side, and there's nobody sitting in the middle.
Yeah.
And I would say that I'm trying to move myself to the middle of the plane.
Yeah.
Right. Like I'm definitely a conservative. I can see the other side. And I think that's our biggest problem in America right now is we're not able to look at somebody else's side and agree with their opinion.
Yeah.
I don't need to argue with you. I have my opinion. You have your opinion.
And one conversation is probably not going to change a lot of that, right? Like,
no.
That's the thing.
Well, you get like the transgender, right? It's this big thing everybody's going through. I don't care if you're transgender.
People get so worked up over these issues that like it becomes this pissing match of like, I know more than you, so you should believe what I'm saying. But that's not going to lead to anything productive.
Well, my wife was arguing with somebody online last night, and I'm like, why do you argue? Like, it's not even worth the breath. Like, I don't win or lose at this. There is
totally.
What we've ran into now is there is no more winning or losing. We both have opinions. What we need to do is we need to find America. We need to be healthy. We need to have our religion back in America, right? We need to push our kids to go to school, go to church, right? I want kind people. I've hunted in Utah a ton. I love Utah, my favorite state. If I could move, I'm going to Utah. And what I found is back in the day, everybody would be like, oh, the Mormons live there. Like, what do you think? I think they fucking do a phenomenal job with their kids. Yeah. They're all respectable. Yeah. Right. So
upstanding members of society.
Absolutely.
Although, did you watch that American Primeval show? Primeval. It's on Netflix.
Yeah.
It's about the westward, migration, and it talks about Utah, like the Utah territory. It's got Brigham Young when he was the governor of Utah, and there were some savage youths, like Mormon, like, dude, they had this like Mormon militia that would go around killing people that they thought were going to try and take over their land.
Yeah.
So it hasn't always been, flowers and roses and everything. But no, for the most part, I knew a couple of Mormon kids growing up. They were just good-hearted, kind people.
Absolutely.
But that is a good show to watch.
Yeah. So that's what, like, for me, like, if you give your kids religion, and I have my religion, I'm a Christian.
Us
right?
too.
And like, and my big thing is we want to raise our kids to be Christians, and and that's my belief, and that's what I believe in, and I don't have a problem, and I'm not out here pushing this or pushing that. And as a Christian, we're supposed to invite people to God.
Yes.
Right, where we can, we invite them. What I like is that I like the respect and the kindness, and that's what America's missing, is that we're not teaching our kids to be kind. We're not teaching our kids to be respectful. I respect anybody's decision. Don't bring your decision upon me. But if you want to make a decision to do life your way, gay, trans, whatever, I'm not here to judge you.
No, just do it.
Just do it. But don't bring it on me and my family and make it something we have to be okay with, because we don't have to be.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to judge you for it. So I think that's where we're just missing in America. And like I have my true beliefs, and who I am, and business is tough. And so like you look at the way my dad's ran business for years, and he's done a very good job. And our job as business owners is to provide a safe work environment for our employees.
Yeah.
Right. And I have my beliefs, and most of the time the people that work with me are very similar minded, because that's what you hire. That's typically the industry you're in or whatever they follow. But you have some that are different, and we cohabit extremely well. We don't have any problems, and because I find good people.
Yes.
And if you can find good people, I really don't care what that other belief is. You're Democrat, Republican, whatever, independent, as long as you're good and you're kind and you want to do a good job. And so, and that's where I think we can look past it and, really just keep building that kindness in our community and our relationship with our kids, and everything else is, I coach a lot of sports. I wouldn't say I'm a great coach, but what I do enjoy is kids.
Yeah.
And being kind and trying to teach them how to be kind and really enjoyable, because life's just too short.
Dude, it's amazing like how you have a 4-year-old. We do as well. We have a 4, 5, and 7-year-old. So like every single time they go somewhere and somebody hands them like, here's your dinner. Thank you. Yeah. Or, hey, can I have a lemonade? Can I have a lemonade, please? Yeah. But every single time you have to reinforce it until it's just kind of like beat into their memory of like, hey, I can't end a sentence without saying the word please or thank you or whatever. But you have to work on it every single day, every single time.
Well, and I agree. And I think that, I've got some friends that I think struggle a little bit when they go out and their kids are a wreck and stuff like that. We've all had kids.
No doubt.
Please stop stressing in a restaurant. If your kid's acting up, let them act up. We've all been there.
No doubt.
Right? Like, you don't need to give them the iPad. You don't need to give them this or give them that because they're acting. Let them scream.
Yeah.
Like I'm numb. So I don't care what people think. I have a select few people that touch me that I'm like, hey, I really care your opinion.
Yeah.
Mr. Coleman, been around you a long time, would care how you thought.
Yeah.
The guy sitting next to me at Rayleigh's, don't give a fuck.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
so I think a lot of people worry about all these thoughts and what does that person think of me and how
I'm
they
one
think.
of them, but only to an extent of like, if I take my kids out and they start misbehaving, I don't want to ruin someone else's night because my kids are not acting appropriately.
Agreed.
You know?
And I just think the stress level that gets added shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
Like, we shouldn't be stressed. You should be concerned.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like,
Yeah.
hey, we don't want to do this, but the stress shouldn't come. And I think, that's where you watch a lot of young families and they're stressed out because their kids, not every kid acts well.
No.
And when you see a perfect kid, trust me, they're not perfect.
Yeah.
Right? There's a problem somewhere. There's an issue going on.
It's probably more abnormal for a 6, 7, 8-year-old kid to sit still for a 2-hour period without doing something than it would be otherwise, right?
I got a 4-year-old that you want to whoop his ass about 10 minutes into dinner, right? So like he's a constant mover like me. My 15-year-old's the same way. We can't sit still. My 11-year-old's amazing. We'll sit there for dinner and not have a lot of problems, but they're all a little different. So they beat to their own drums. And, we do a good job. I feel like as my wife is getting our kids out and exposed to different things. My dad did a great job. My mom with me.
Yeah.
I played every sport. I played water sports.
Sports
ski.
are huge, man.
Like, and as you get in life, so one of the biggest things that like I'm big in is sales, and I can communicate with anybody because I've been to Europe. I can speak a little Spanish. I've surfed. I've done sports.
Yeah.
So
it's just relatability. How can you relate to the person across from you?
yes, and when you're in that and you get that kind of experience in life, so experience your kids, experience life yourself.
Yeah.
Go make those experiences because if you're in sales at all, like that's what people are looking to talk to you about.
Yeah.
Is hey, how have you been here? Have you done that?
Yeah.
What does this look like? And so that's what I'm pushing my girls on, and that's the biggest thing I build with girls right now is as far as I'm concerned, girls are better at guys in 90% of life. They just don't have the confidence.
Interesting.
And so if you can build self-confidence into
Yeah,
your
yeah.
girls, they will rule because they have the confidence, the smarts, the organization. Like I am uberly self-confident.
Yeah.
That's why I win.
Yeah.
It's not because I'm smart. There's none of that there. It's just I'm not afraid to lose.
Yeah.
And my girls.
Dude, that's huge.
So I'm just trying to teach them, like, I don't care if you lose. Try as hard as you can. Have the confidence that you can do it. Bleed it. And you're going to win. And you'll beat everybody else in life. Because most everybody's a little scared. You took a jump to start a business. My dad took the jump. Fortunately for me, I was blessed. I tell everybody, they're mad. Like, hey, you're the owner's son. I am. Guess what? My dad and mom did a great job.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
But I've got to run inside that business now.
Yeah.
And that's what's been different. So it's that jump and that push. But that's what for me, like with girls, is to really push them in that way. Boys seem to have confidence.
Yeah.
Right? It seems to be more natural.
To my son especially, like confidence that can't be explained. It's like, I'm the best basketball player ever. I'm like, I can promise you you're not.
Yeah.
Like we're playing flag football right now, and he always wants to know at the end of the game. He's like, hey, was I the best player today? I'm like, no.
Yeah. That's it.
Was I the second best? No. Was I the third? We could do this for a few more and we'll get there. But but he believes it. And I'm like, good on you, I guess. But I think that the danger there is, and something we've had to work with him constantly on, is like, dude, even if you are really good at it, that doesn't mean that all of a sudden you can't try just as hard and it's just going to be, oh, I've got it. It's easy now. I don't have to work anymore.
Yep.
No, the work is just beginning.
Yep.
Once you start getting good at something, that's when like, I got to ramp it up to just get even better.
Yep.
As opposed to, okay, I'm decent at this now. I don't have to work any harder at it.
Well, I think I have a learning disability, so
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so dyslexia. So as a kid, I always struggled in school.
Well, I'm sorry I spelled that show for you.
Yeah,
You were probably like,
you're gonna have to write it down. So I don't spell anything.
Yeah.
I don't read out loud. And so what happens though is I think as a kid is that I had to do things differently. So I couldn't do it the exact same way you did math or you read the book or you read the story because it just doesn't work for me that way. It doesn't come out. And so my 15-year-old's got me and her all the way through on school, and my wife's stressed. And I'm like, why are you so stressed? Well, I'm like, school sucked. But guess what it built me into was I worked hard every day because I wanted good grades. But I'm not going to sweat my kids for the grades. I'm going to sweat them for the work they put in.
Totally.
Right? So if you're a straight A student, it's easy. I expect straight A's plus. I expect extracurriculars. If you're a C student, but you're sweating it out, then sweat it out.
Yeah.
Do a good job. Just understand that something in life you're going to be way better at than the next person, right? That everybody's good at something.
Yeah.
Right? And so don't sweat that kid gets straight A's without even trying, because I met plenty of my straight A friends that either have worked at the shop or worked at other places. And yeah, they were super good at school, but maybe it was too easy.
Yeah.
So when they got to that next level, they didn't have that grind where
they don't know how to push themselves harder.
Yeah. So like coming out of that grind where like everything was hard, it made it better. So we're kind of struggling through that with school right now with my daughter. And I was telling my wife, I'm like, you got to relax. Like, we need her to struggle. Struggle in life right now is really good.
Mm-hmm.
Easy right now in life, I'm worried,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because everything came super simple. You know, I met plenty of straight A students, went off to 4-year colleges, just didn't really make it anywhere.
Yeah.
You know, and they just, maybe they didn't have the drive.
Well, they learn the routine of school and they learn how to be good at that. But then school is not real life.
No.
I mean, it's important, but it's not everything.
No. And that's it. I've got buddies that have, got a degree and like told me like, I wish I just worked for my family business, like out of school. Cause the degree, I learned less than you did in the 4 years you were working. Cause you got real life.
Dude, I just partied, to be honest with you. Like, I just had a good time for 4 years.
Like, isn't that what, like, so, like, I was telling somebody the other day, like, they were talking about college, and it was a podcast, of course, my wife was listening to, and she was saying that, the doctor says college is bad because all these kids do is go and party, and I'm like, but, like, you talk about life experience.
Yeah.
Like, what do you talk about?
Yeah. I mean, I still have very close friends from my college times. And, like, what it did teach me how to do is communicate with people that were from outside of my normal circle.
Yeah.
Like, I learned how to relate to others. I learned how to fit in outside of the comfort of my home. I learned how to be a little more independent.
Yeah.
Sure, I did schoolwork too, but I think I learned how to be a young man that was out on his own more than anything else.
Well, and like I just think that like you meet some of those experiences in life, you're gonna make some dumb mistakes.
Of course, so, you're a kid. You're still a kid.
Hopefully, you're in a safe environment.
Yeah.
And we've trained you well enough that you understand you need to be with a group, especially on the girls' side. But I'd rather you make those mistakes at 18, 19, 20 than
at 30.
Not at 30, right?
Yeah.
You're not out partying, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, now I've learned this or learned that, So I just think that experience in life is worth it for kids.
Yeah.
I'm not a big college person. I don't push college on my kids. I push the experience of life.
Yeah.
I think I've met a lot of educated people. I've worked with a few that are super smart, and I know a lot of it came from college. It's just not for everybody. And I really want for me to understand, like, it's not. And so, like, my girls, I want them to go because I'm going to have a good time. Like, I hope to God they play, college sports.
Yeah,
like,
be sweet, huh?
That'd be awesome. Like, I didn't get a chance to do that. I think that would be phenomenal. You imagine, like, you look at people you've met that played college sports. Normally, they do pretty well.
Yeah.
Because there was a commitment, a work ethic, right? A drive. Like, there was something else there. Because I've met a lot of college kids, and most of the college sports kids I've met aren't fit in fire sprinkler pipe.
Yeah.
Right? They're doing pretty decent jobs. They're in good careers. And so I think it's that important thing to really push the kids is if they can get into college and sports, great. If they can't, there's no reason working in the trades, and that's a bad career either.
Yeah, for sure. Do you take any supplements? Like you were talking about health earlier. Or is your family into, and you said holistic medicine, like what are you taking that is kind of part of your daily regimen?
I'm probably the worst one to ask. So like Danielle takes a bunch of different stuff. I'm a vitamin D, vitamin C.
Okay.
Right. Like I drink protein. I'll do some muscle egg, which is just an egg white basically blended. I am not on that side. When it comes to eating wise, I do well. I'm just not a supplement taker. Cook dinner, we cook 6 nights a week,
Us too.
7 nights a week.
Yeah.
I do a little pour at lunchtime, but yeah, I'm not really big on the supplements.
Okay.
So.
Your wife did like bodybuilding for a minute, right?
Yeah, she did. She tried it out. She did it was a fitness competition.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was a fun experience. So, 12.
So much of that had to be diet, right?
All diet.
Yeah.
It's so like the macro, that's where she learned about macros, right? And so like balancing your body's macros. And then she had a really good trainer that helped her balance the macros and then would change them like 3 months before the comp, 2 months before, a week before. And you could watch the body change.
That's wild.
Right.
Man.
With what you're putting in it, how much water. It's like, it's pretty crazy, So like those fitness people impress the hell out of me. You talk about self-control, like
no doubt.
the not eating this or eating that, eating X amount of this, like it's unreal, And so I just find the gym kind of funny, Like I'm an exercise person. I like to work out at 5:30 in the morning. Right now, I got some buddies doing CrossFit. I haven't been going for a week. I've been sick, but I don't think CrossFit's my jam.
You like it?
I don't.
Oh, you don't?
I
okay.
don't. My back hurts.
Yeah.
I think I'm too old.
I can't do it either.
I can't do a muscle up. I can't do this. And so
I do that Rumble boxing place over in Rockland.
Yeah.
I like that,
So that's, I think, getting moving and like it's super important and like how you get moving and like, so like at the gym, like I find the better routine, but I'm not that gym rat that's going to go 2 hours a day. Like I feel like some of that's self-observed. So like for my wife to look the way she did in that competition, that was a family effort because she had to do 4 hours of working out or 3 plus the diet. We all were in that
every day,
right? Like, so it's to me when you see that and like people are so into that body thing, I'm like, you know what? The image to me is like, just take care of yourself healthy wise.
For sure.
Like we're obese as a society. Like we need to focus on good health. You know, the fitness side of it, I think is great, getting out and exercising. But I think there's some of that where you get too overcumbersome of yourself. Social media is that great example of a nightmare, right? Is everything you see online is like, you know, rainbows and unicorns. And I just disagree. Like there's no way, you know, your life is that great.
For sure.
You know, because
but you're only putting the best of you out there, you know? Yeah. So. Man. Well, hey, dude, thanks for coming on. Yeah. This has been awesome.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. So. We're off.